The Pear Affair by Judith Eagle, Chapter 14. For the second night running, Nell slept in the laundry room. And just as the day before, in the morning, Xavier came to collect her with croissants and orange juice to bolt down before their bellboy duty started. It was a busy morning, and Monsieur Jacques' bell never seemed to stop pinging. First, Nell delivered a mountain of pressed newspapers. Then she carted pile after pile of luggage outside to waiting cars. And for a good half hour, she sat in the tiny office tucked away behind the desk and stuck stamps on letters. "Boy!" Monsieur Jacques poked his head round the door, making Nell jump. "Have you got cotton wool in your ears? I've been ringing and ringing for you." Nell leapt up in what she hoped was a boyish look. "Are they all stamped?" he asked, looking at the letters that Nell had arranged in a teetering tower. "Yes, sir," said Nell, and she tried to give the same salute she'd seen Xavier deliver, a sort of simultaneous half nod of the head, a touch of the cap and a click of the heels. It had looked effortless when he did it, but when Nell tried, she got in a twist and nearly fell over her ankles. "Stand straight, boy," snapped Monsieur Jacques. "And look sharp. I want you to run those round to the post office." He passed her a large square leather bag with a thick strap. "Been there before? You're new, aren't you?" Mumbled Nell, aware she might be on dangerous territory. Out of the door, turn left and left again. The post office is at the end of the street on the right. "Very good, sir," said Nell quickly, sweeping the letters into her leather bag and pulling the strap over her head. Outside, the sun beat down on the pavement. It was going to be a scorching day. Nell hopped down the steps of the hotel and turned left. She felt happy and hopeful. After her shift, she was going to collect the list from Nige and visit each and every couturier until she found Pear. What had Nige's words been? There was music in her needle and dancing in her thread. Of course, another couturier would have snapped her up, and then she would be able to find out why Pear had stopped writing, and if Nell chased the thought away, Pear would never abandon her. It was such a beautiful day, and Nell was so deep in thought that she didn't even notice first one shadow, then another, fall across her path. So full was her head with pictures of Pear that before she even knew what was happening, two figures had swooped silently either side of her, grabbed her elbows, marched her swiftly down the street, and propelled her into a narrow passage. "Let go! Ouch, you're hurting me!" Nell wriggled out of their grasp and backed away, but the hands clutched at her again, like tentacles, grasping and catching at her, fingers curling round her wrists, pulling her back. A push, a shove into the dark recess of a doorway. Two silhouetted figures looming side by side, blocking her escape. Nell's heart thudded. It was the ladies who'd been watching her in the cafe, the ones who'd followed her to Satane's shop. "There's no point struggling," said Lorgnette. "You aren't going anywhere," said Cigarette Holder. "Is it about the hotel bill?" burst out Nell. "Look, I'm sorry. My parents can be forgetful. I can pay it." Furiously, she dug in her pockets and started counting out her tips. Whatever happens, she mustn't be derailed in her search for Pear. "How much is it? Please, don't arrest me. If I haven't got it all now, I'll make it up tomorrow." "We have absolutely no idea what you're talking about," said the one with the lorgnette coldly, holding her eyeglass up and giving her captive a long, hard stare. Nell stared back, confused. What did they want then? Behind the bottle-thick glass, Lorgnette's eyes were magnified to huge proportions, cold and wet-looking like a giant fish. "Put your money away," said the one with the cigarette holder. "We just want to know where your parents are." "Oh," said Nell, and then, all in a rush, she put her head down like a bull and tried to batter her way past them, but it was no good. They held fast, pinching her arms. "That hurts, let me go," she protested. Neither of them replied. Instead, Cigarette Holder took a long, deep drag of her cigarette and blew a large puff of smoke straight into Nell's face, making her cough. "I'm going to ask you one more time," said Lorgnette. "Where are your parents?" "I don't know," cried Nell. Should she tell them Melinda and Gerald had gone to Venice? If she did, they might leave her alone. But what if they then told the authorities she'd been abandoned? Then she'd be carted off to a children's home and she'd never be able to find Pear. "I'm sure they'll be back home," she muttered, rubbing her arm where it had been pinched. "They'd better be," said Cigarette Holder, blowing small circles of smoke. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tiny puffs wafting out of her mouth and hovering in the air like the dots under the question marks that were exploding in Nell's head. "The thing is, they've got something of ours," said Lorgnette softly. "Something very important, and we want it back." Lorgnette gave Nell's arm another hard pinch. "She'd be black and blue at this rate. You tell them, return it, or there'll be trouble, very big trouble." Lorgnette lowered the eyeglass. She shoved her face close to Nell's. She smelled of extra strong peppermints, the kind that make your mouth feel like it's on fire. "I'm sure they wouldn't want anything to happen to their darling daughter." "I don't think they really," started Nell. "Shut up, I'm talking," shouted Lorgnette. Nell flinched. She wouldn't be surprised if Lorgnette wasn't some sort of distant relative of matron at school. "What Mathilde is saying," said Cigarette Holder in a more normal voice, "is that if your parents don't return what's not theirs straight away, you," she paused and exhaled 2 dragon lines of smoke out of her nostrils, "could be in danger." "Do you understand, little girl?" demanded Lorgnette. "Yes," said Nell, even though her mind was in a spin and she didn't have a clue what they were talking about. "Off you go then." The fingers relinquished their grasp and pushed Nell out of the dark doorway and back onto the bright street. Nell ran.